The Religious Freedom Restoration Act was about religious liberty, not about discrimination.
Faithful freedom. Indiana's governor defends a law that he says is not a license to discriminate. Unspeakable sorrow. Relatives mourn their loved ones lost in last week's plane crash in the French Alps. Lenten almsgiving. Small change makes a big difference in Congo through Catholic relief services. And church treasures. A new Vatican exhibit presents priceless artwork from centuries past. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Tuesday, March 31st, 2015. Joining us, I'm Brian Patrick with your news now. Indiana Governor Mike Pence says the state's new religious freedom law has been grossly mischaracterized. Now, he's still defending it, but he says he wants legislation on his desk by week's end clarifying the law does not allow discrimination. Suzanne LaFranchi is here tonight with more.
Brian, the story continues to make headlines tonight. At his news conference today, the governor said he never expected this kind of backlash when he signed the bill. While Pence says he is still pleased to have signed the law and continues to stand by it, modifications will be made. Frustrated over the explosive backlash, Governor Mike Pence speaks out about Indiana's new religious freedom law.
The smear here against this bill is that it created a license to discriminate or a license to deny services. And that's just completely false.
Pence defended the law as a way to protect religious liberty. Similar legislation is on the books in 19 states, with a dozen more considering it. The laws are patterned after the Federal Religious Freedom Restoration Act of 1993, signed by then-President Bill Clinton.
The American Civil Liberties Union said then that the Religious Freedom Restoration Act was the most important legislation considered by Congress since the First Amendment.
But some say the law opens the door to discrimination against the gay community by business owners who object to a homosexual lifestyle. A host of celebrities, businesses, and organizations have spoken out against the law. Some have said they would boycott the state as long as it remains unchanged. State Democrats are pushing for a repeal of the law and more.
We should move to now amend our Indiana Civil Rights Act, as many other states have done, and include sexual orientation as a protected class.
Pence says he is working around the clock to modify the law.
I'd like to see on my desk before the end of this week legislation that is added to the Religious Freedom Restoration Act in Indiana that makes it clear that this law does not give businesses a right to deny services to anyone.
The controversy will likely continue to make headlines. Arkansas is about to vote on a similar law any day. Unlike Indiana, lawmakers in Little Rock said they will not modify their legislation. Brian?
Thanks, Suzanne. Brent Walker is Executive Director of the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty, an attorney. I wonder what you think of the law and the backlash that's resulted from its passage.
Well, it's kind of a little bit surprising that it's been so vocal, particularly on Holy Week. You know, It's a shame that we have to have this fight now. No, state religious freedom restoration acts are good. There's about 30 of them out there that sort of mirror the Federal Religious Freedom Restoration Act, all of which are there to protect further religious liberty of American citizens. They are not there to deny civil rights to other Americans.
You were there when President Clinton signed the federal legislation. What has changed in our culture since then that there's such a, an outcry now? Everybody was behind the other one.
Yeah, well, the fear that religious claims are going to impose on the rights of third parties. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act is set up so that the courts can come in and negotiate those differences, rule on religious liberty claims, but make sure that it doesn't violate the rights of third parties or the country generally. And it can make those adjustments that are needed. So this bill is far from perfect, and I really look forward to seeing what the governor is going to come up with, or the Indiana legislature in the near future. But it is not a license to discriminate, even in its present form. And for those who want the bill, it's not going to be surefire protection against gay rights or having to deal with same-sex marriage. Both sides, I think, are engaged in hyperbole when they talk about what they say or believe that this act is going to do to their interest. The America I love is a both and America, both religious liberty and civil rights. And we've got to have both. We've got to figure out how to do both. If we don't do both, then it's not the America I love.
But it seems when there is a law like this passed, it comes under attack in almost a vicious way that seems to deny people of religion their rights because others feel like it's impeding on theirs.
Right. Well, again, that's part of the task of the courts. My right to swing my fist ends where your nose begins, Brian.
That's a good way to put it.
And my right to exercise my religion ends where your rights begin. So that's the adjustment that the court's going to have to make. But I think we can have both religious liberty and civil rights.
But laws like this at least give the court something to work with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's why they're so important.
All right. Brent Walker, Executive Director of the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty.
Brian.
Thanks for your
Appreciate it.
perspective.
Nice to be here.
We appreciate it.